What's happening, people? Hope everyone's well. Episode 11.
Crazy.
We done one last week because we missed the week before, so we're doing it a week early, but it will be 2 weekly again after this. But we've got a special guest again. This is Charlie O'Riordan. He's a good friend of both ours. How long have you known you? I was 16,
a kid still.
It's got to be 15 years.
So I've been 12, 13 probably.
15 years, yeah. It's got to be, isn't it?
Probably, yeah, probably younger. I probably was about 11.
Yeah.
I'll give you some dates. I met your dad in 2011.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, about 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Charlie's been a good friend of ours for a long time, and someone who's helped me a lot now to get sober. You are over 4 years, or you exactly?
4 years and 5 months sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is obviously incredible. Charlie was about 18 months sober when I reached out. So obviously you were saying me and you had sessions together back in the day. And then you went and got sober and I avoided you. I've talked about Charlie on the podcast before, obviously, but now you can sort of put a face to the name. Someone that I sort of avoided a little bit because you've gone and got sober and that was not what I wanted to do. And then before you knew it, it was something I needed to do. And you were the person that I sent a message to, and yeah, we met up and got chatting and we've sort of been in each other's lives ever since.
Do you know what? I'll be honest, right? I remember when I first got sober and I got rid of all my social media because I just had enough of it all. And I remember Laura would say to me, Laura's my wife, she'd say like, "Is Harry all right?" And I'd be like, "I don't know really, I don't know." And I used to see a few Snapchats and things like that, and it used to break my heart, if I'm honest.
Spoke about that.
It used to really upset me. Yeah, I knew that you were sort of where I was.
Yeah.
I knew it. It was it's horrible to watch, especially when you get sober.
Yeah.
And then you realise, because that was the same as me. I had this whole Snapchat thing and that, and I'd post stuff.
But obviously, you knew from experience where you couldn't come to me. Like that would have been the worst thing. If you would sort of message me or try to sort of say maybe you should come and get sober, I would have pushed you away. I would have been fuming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And you know that from when people tried to help you before you were ready.
Yeah, you can't.
So you had to wait for me to come to you.
Yeah, you can't force someone. If someone wants to get sober, they've got to get to that point of rock bottom.
Yeah.
Where they're just broken mentally and physically. It's brutal, but it's true, isn't it?
I guess that's the worry as well, is how long are they going to stay at the bottom? If they leave it too long,
because not everybody gets sober.
That's what I mean. And obviously, like with you with the heart attacks and stuff, like I said before, if you left it any longer, it never would have happened.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't feel it now.
Never know.
Yeah, I think you're one of those people. 100%. I would say you wouldn't be here right now. Yeah, I think you'd be dead because of your heart and your health conditions that was happening. It was just going to kill you, and the way you drank too. It was what you drank, and that sort of whiskey by the bottle was just.
Yeah, I love it.
It was just like a lot.
And this is what we spoke about before. We both had fun in our drinking days. You know what I mean? We don't regret everything because obviously it's a path and it led us to where we are now. You know what I mean? We're both grateful alcoholics, as they put it, because we're glad to have the new life that we have. But there is stuff that you regret. There is stuff that you look back at and you cringe at, makes my skin crawl, especially those Snapchat stuff. I can't rewatch their videos anymore to see the old me. There's sort of something therapeutic about it because I can see how much I've changed. But at the same time, I don't like looking at him, that old version of me. You know what I mean? I struggle to watch it. But yeah, you can't regret everything.
Well, I was saying that's Rich for me, but both of you at a stage of being big as well, which have been drinking and binging, and obviously you've both done a lot of weight now.
What do you call it? Specimen of man. Specimen.
Some of the pictures that you've pulled up, because obviously more so like just not realising at all. You see these pictures, and I don't remember you being that big. It's like
I look terrible. My skin. There's pictures of you as well. I don't know what your biggest weight was.
16. So I was the fattest cocaine addict.
Yeah.
Ever.
You've done like mad weight.
Yeah, I've done.
I haven't seen you in a while as well, and I didn't realise how much weight you had done.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Do you know what though? I'll tell you why I got so big, right? Because when I was 18, my mum and dad moved. They moved to Bognor Regis, and I was in East London. And I got with this girl that I was with for a while, and I'm not exaggerating, I didn't even know how to use an oven. I didn't know how to fry bacon. I used to put bacon in the microwave. And I lived in a block of flats, and on the high road was KFC, Indian, Chinese, kebab, everything you could dream of. And I'm not exaggerating, I put on 3 stone in a year.
Yeah. The most weight you're burning is walking down there.
Yeah.
But that goes back, that food thing goes into my addiction. Because anything that changes the way I feel, so if I'm feeling a bit down or anxious or can't really handle my feelings, like I've just food.
I think surely that's got to be one of the most relatable things to any person in the world.
Definitely.
Food.
Yeah.
100%. Because obviously there's some people who will turn to drink, drugs, and things, but food is always a one.
Yeah.
It don't matter what, even if you're not feeling down, you just have a busy day.
So accessible.
And it's laziness just to go, do you know what? I'm not going to put that thing in the oven for 20 minutes. I'm going to wait an hour.
Yeah.
So I ain't got cooking. And I'm going to wait a whole hour, 40 minutes longer for this food to turn up, and that will make me feel better. It's that.
And it hurts in the short
100%.
term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The second that you take a bite of pizza, or I know you two are both kebab people. You could do a whole podcast just about kebabs with you two.
Do you know the motivation I get in my mind? Of like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to lose weight, get back into the football.
Yeah.
And now
it's too much. I can't do it.
I think it's kebab though.
The best.
The
best. But the thing is with me, right, is that when I sort of changing the way you feel, there's nothing wrong, is there, with having a takeaway? There's nothing wrong with having 3 or 4, 5, even 8 pints here and there.
Yeah.
Or half a bottle of whiskey, or even a bottle of whiskey now and then. Problem with me, since I can remember, was like I get obsessed. It's like an obsession. So once I start, if I have a really good lamb doner kebab tonight, like a proper nice mint, like really good doner kebab, I wake up tomorrow, that's the first thing I think of. And I was like that with drink. So when I started drinking, it was like, you know, most people wake up with a disgraceful hangover. The first time I ever had a drink, I was 13. And I said to my nan that I'm sleeping in a tent, which was opposite the caravan park we was at. But I wasn't in the tent, I was round the corner drinking neat vodka. And I blacked out on my first drink. I got arrested in a phone box, trying to hide from the police. They brought me back to the caravan, and I told the police officer that my name was John O'Riordan, which is my dad's name.
Yeah.
So they knocked on my nan's door and said, we've got your grandson here, John O'Riordan. And she was like, no, that's not my grandson. It was me. So the next day, I was throwing up. I was ill, really ill. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
I can't wait to do that again. The stories, what happened, that was mental, because that ain't normal, is it?
We spoke about before, because I was 13 as well. Mine was a house party, and I've told the story before, so I won't tell it again. But that same feeling the next day of thinking, I want to do that every day. You feel like you unlocked a superpower. It gave you confidence, it made you funnier.
Yeah.
Everything about it's like,
it's funny
feeling every day.
It's funny how big the difference is from someone who can just drink normally and someone that is an alcoholic. Where I remember drinking my first time, waking up thinking I want to do that again.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's no obsession.
You're not
in my head, I'm like, I want to do that again, but I don't mind when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered if I have to wait 2 weeks for another party, a month, 2 months. I'll wait, but I'll be going. I want to have that drink.
Yeah.
But there's not that obsession of I need to do that again now.
Yeah,
That's the best
I
thing
need
in
it
the world.
again, because that made me feel different.
And that feeling lasts for a while. That feeling of sort of being invincible, and it just being the best thing in the world. But then eventually it wears off.
I was going to say, do you notice the turning point of this is becoming a problem now?
I think in hindsight,
you just don't.
I didn't notice it.
No.
I knew I was in trouble, but it was the good people that I had around me that noticed it. So people like your dad, people like my dad, my close friends who I grew up with weren't around. All of a sudden I wasn't getting invited to nights out. Even yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there were times when you went, what are you doing?
Yeah, me and Harry spoke about it a few times.
What are you doing? And I remember thinking, how dare he? You know, how could he?
Oh, you've had a clash moment.
I'm the life and soul of the party.
Not to me though.
That's
what's
it.
funny, mate. It
No.
wasn't a clash to me. It was me just
No,
going,
telling the truth.
leave it out, Charlie. I can't be doing
It's
that.
just
Not even realising that I've annoyed him in any sense. So.
You hit your ego a little bit.
Yeah, because he saw through it. And
I am younger, so I would have only been 18 at the time.
Yeah.
Like fresh 18 out in the pub, and you're going to go, hang on a minute, you've just started coming out, don't fucking start on me, sort of thing.
yeah, that's when I started realising the people that meant a lot to me weren't around. And you think, what's going on? And I'm drinking with people that drink like me, and you know they're not well either. I'm right in it, and it was lonely.
Yeah.
Thinking I don't really know any of these people, but well, they drink like me, and they drink in the mornings and do what I do.
So when you in your heaviest drinking times, would you prefer? And I know it's a bit both because again we're similar. But would you prefer a night out or would you prefer drinking alone indoors?
I'd start with a night out.
Yeah.
So my thing was start with a night out, but I would ruin that night out because I'd drink before I went out. I'd do cocaine. So I'd turn up to a place to meet people that are just having a normal drink. I turn up with foam around my mouth. I've already drunk a bottle of vodka. I'm completely steaming drunk. So within 2 hours of that, I'm hammered. Then I get paranoid because I've done a load of drugs. And then I'll just go home and sit in my kitchen on my own.
You
and
did.
drink.
He was infamous for the Charlie's gone, just disappeared.
Can't handle it.
Like, obviously, there was only a short period of you drinking that I would have been in the pubs, but the count of signs would be out, and then you sort of go, "Where's my Charlie gone?"
Yeah.
And that's it.
The thing is with Charlie as well, right? Is Charlie sober? It's hilarious.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's two completely different worlds.
Like this is not so much now. Obviously, you're killing life, like you're smashing it. I'm just talking about the old version of you. So back then, when you were just sober, and I see you, and obviously we worked together for a while, you were funny. Then when you got a few drinks in you were hilarious. Purely because of that confidence level. I think I was similar, you know what I mean? You've got a few drinks, you're feeling yourself a little bit now, and you would have me in pieces. One of the funniest people I hang around with, but then you go to that next level. And then you were the worst person ever around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like a switch where suddenly you come back down, I'd look in your eyes, and I could see, and now you're gutted.
You almost feel like
you've
you've
lost
missed
Charlie
it.
tonight.
Gone.
Oh, what a shame. We were having a good night, and now it's gone. You know what I mean? And that's why it wasn't a way to live. You know what I mean? You can't carry on like that forever.
Nah, can't do it, mate.
I feel like for both of you as well, you're quite similar. Like you say about not having that inner circle of your closest mates, and obviously you had that with yours, but then the not getting invited out, not getting invited to certain things, and then obviously Harry would make a lot of jokes about, I'll drink on my own and I'll do this, and you don't realise the sadness behind that. Of him acting like it's funny, and it's funny that both of you didn't have that inner circle to go, that's enough now. But you're starting to take the piss a bit.
I think the thing with our friends as well is they sort of turn their back. So I had a few people that I would hang around with, and I didn't notice it, but one by one they'd stop sort of coming out, or stop answering the calls and things like that. And a lot of them got into relationships because we carried on up to sort of late 20s. That they were sort of growing up, and I weren't ready to grow up. I'm sure you're the same. It's, I want to keep doing this every day. I don't want to sit indoors and watch movies and things like that. I want to go out. I want to do this every night. So slowly people stop coming out, and then you make new friends through the pub. Yeah. They're not proper friends, they're just people that you drink with.
Yeah.
So I didn't really notice it, you know what I mean? It's not now, again, until hindsight. It's only when you look back you realise just how bad.
Well, and I think people you meet along the way wouldn't notice either, because like even me with you, it's sort of like I only ever see you whether it's at work or sober or drunk. I never see the in-betweens of what you were drinking or what you were doing. So to me, it's just sort of like I just thought, well, Charlie can't really handle his drink.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost like ignorant. I'm sorry, well, he can't handle his drink, but he's fun to have out. I'm sure he's fine. I don't see you on a day-to-day basis, so it would have been the same for anyone that either of you met that's on a night out. Yeah, like that Harry kid who comes out, he's wicked, but I don't see him in a week, but he comes out on a weekend, and you wouldn't know that either of you had an issue. Just thought, like, well, just come out and enjoy himself.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is like with me, I had important responsibilities. Like I lost my first child when I was 20, and that was because of drinking. So I was in London, I had my firstborn son. I remember when he was born, I was in a hospital, and she was in labour, and I was downstairs with my mates having a drink in the hospital and doing cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing. Like, I put alcohol and drugs before people that I loved.
Do you think a lot of that was fear-based? Because of the responsibility you're about to
Definitely, I couldn't handle it. And I remember when my son was born and they put him in my arms, it was the most emptiest feeling ever. And that breaks my heart to admit that.
Yeah.
I loved him, but I didn't know how to love him. I was like, I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Like, selfishly, I don't know what to do with it, you know. I wanted to love him, but I couldn't. So like, even when you go right back to my drinking and drugs, I lost things straight away. Most people, right, lose a girl that they're in love with and a firstborn child because of their drinking and drug using are going to probably make a decision. Hold on a minute, this is costing me everything. And at 20, that was already happening and happened. And then I ended up moving to Bognor Regis on my own. And I remember this is how baffling it is, like the illness of alcoholism. I remember sitting in my flat. I've got a flat that my mum had paid the deposit, and I'm having a drink in my flat, and I thought, this is fantastic. I've got no girlfriend and no baby to worry about now. I can just drink.
Well, that's a win.
I mean, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and then a year later I lost the flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's at 20, so it was already happening for me quite from a young age, you know. And obviously when I met Laura, she had Connor, who was 1 year old. So there was another opportunity to sort of get my life back together. But the problem is that I didn't really know how, and I didn't know what life would be like without booze, because I drank from 13.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a family of drinkers, not alcoholics, but I grew up in pubs. You know, I grew up family dudes. There was always drink, so I didn't really see the big deal of drinking, and I didn't. It's different when, you know, like heroin and crack,
Yeah.
and someone goes, "He's a junkie," and
It's
you
noticeable. It's more
you
noticeable.
go, "Calm, mate, poor fucker," you know. You don't. It's not like. So if I go see my nan, right, and my nan drinks a vodka and tonic every night. She has a vodka and tonic. She drinks a drink, and that's it. If I was sitting there and she just whopped out a crack pipe and just hit a big bit of crack, that would blow my mind, right? But alcohol kills more people than crack.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying if you can handle your booze, fantastic, good on you. Then you shouldn't, like, I don't want it banned or anything. I think what I'm getting at is it was just around me.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have always connected, both as drinkers and then again in sobriety. I mean, as I've said before, you were a massive part, one of the biggest part of me getting sober. You know what I mean? And still to this day, you're helping me on a daily basis. But there's other amazing people that I've met that could also help me, but I might not be able to connect with in the same way. You know what I mean? Where we sort of had similar upbringings, our families are very similar, sense of humour, everything about it, that we've never really disagreed on anything. And there is difference of opinions within alcoholism or addiction, but we just happen to be the same. We have the same sort of thought process of how we ended up where we did and how we ended up sober, you know what I mean? So, like you said, obviously George was the same growing up around alcohol, you are numb to it. Whereas other people didn't drink at 13 or even 16 or 18, and when they had their first one, it wasn't really a big deal. Whereas we almost couldn't wait.
Massive deal.
Like, we've spoken about before, seeing these people in pubs, and we're not knocking our parents, by the way, for the upbringing. It's like we're not going down that road. I liked my childhood, as I know you did, and you grew up around these geezers and that in the pub that were big drinkers, and you'd be obsessed. You'd sit there looking at them and listening to their stories and how funny they were and how much they could drink. And because that's what you're learning in your formative years, you'll think to yourself, well, that's what a man is, and that's what I'm going to aspire to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And before I knew it, I'd made it. I was in a pub, I was a geezer, I was drinking neat whiskey, I've got a table of people laughing at my stories, and I'm like, I fucking made it.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted for my life, you know what I mean? Little did I know how detrimental that was going to be.
It's funny you say that, because then it's like I'm there the whole time with you, completely different.
Yeah.
There's nothing about me that wanted to go out and have a table of people listening to me and act like I can drink this. So it's like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So we'd be on nights out and Harry's trying to chat to everyone, almost like, give me attention, come and see me, I want to tell you my stories and make you laugh. And he'll drag people over to it, or he'll go to them, we'll sit at their table, and I'm over the other side of the pub with two of my mates, and I'm not talking to anyone. We're just sitting there, the three of us, having a laugh. Gets to 12 o'clock and I go, yeah, I've had enough.
Same as my brother.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It's funny, yeah.
So it means it's funny that you all have that same upbringing, but we're all different.
Yeah, my brother, he keeps himself to himself. He don't want the attention. He's a funny lad, but he does what he does. He has a drink and he just chills out, you know. And I used to drive him mad. So I used to drive him mad because I was like the centre of attention. Was for a bit.
Yeah.
And then you know what the real sad part is? I still thought I was right till the end.
Yeah.
You know, I really thought I was the life and soul of the party. I was the one everyone wanted. No. Sitting there drinking on my own, listening to Pink Floyd in my pants, crying, you know.
Yeah.
But like, how many people? So I flip it round because I'm intrigued by people that drink like normal people.
Yeah.
So for you, how does a night out look in your head? So someone rings you.
Do you know the difference is for me that I've always said, and it's I don't get drunk. It doesn't matter how much I drink, I don't get drunk. So I end up being the one that's looking after everyone. So I can't help, and then that's not my mates wanting it, but I naturally will go out and think, well, I might have a couple of drinks before I go out, but it's very rare. I'm like, I'm going to have something to eat in the afternoon, and on my first drink will be when I get down there. There's no thought of, let me get a load of beers in before I go out. So might get a cab down, walk down, whatever, go in, I drink up until the point that the pub's closing. And then I never was one for going to like Tower or anything like Coco. It's like just the worst place. We went there last night and it's the worst place in the world, right? So there's no like, I need to carry on drinking and keep this buzz going, because it weren't like a big buzz for me. Sort of like, I've had enough now. Belly's full, I need some food. That's me. Like, go home, put some telly on, go to bed.
That's amazing.
So the thing is as well, when we were drinking, is I would give shit for that. And so again, in hindsight, you realise there was probably a bit of bitterness and jealousy there. You know what I mean? But I would be berating him for being weak, which is some irony there. You know what I mean? Because he's getting a kebab and going home. What are you talking about? You've got to keep going. Like, don't just go home. You know what I mean? And I'm carrying on till Tuesday and unable to stop. You know what I mean?
And a few times I would give in where I'm like, do you know what? I'm still awake enough here. I can stay out for a bit. I'm enjoying it. There might be more of us. It might be a group of us out. That's the difference for me. The only time I'll stay out is if there's a good group of us. So if it's like at least 5 or 6 of us, that's a good night to me, because I'm like, well, there's good chat going on. There's different conversations. When there's only a couple of you, it's different. But it would be the odd night I say, all right, I'll stay out this night. But then by the time we leave the pub and get to Coco or something, or to another club or whatever, I'll give it 15, 20 minutes before I go fucked up. I've just spent a tenner to get in here. Another £6, £7 address. Like 20 quid gone. I'm like, I could have just gone and spent £8, got a kebab.
Yeah.
It always circles back to
it has to be a kebab. It's always going to finish with a kebab. That's what I mean.
But that is a normal way of enjoying itself on a night out. So like, the thought, looking back, that I would go out, drink before I went out, turn up pissed, do a load of drugs, get paranoid, go home, drink myself into a stupor, wet myself or shit myself, wake up, clean myself up, go to the fridge, and drink again.
And like you say, the difference for you in the end was dealing with kids as well.
And kids that really needed me.
Yeah. Well, obviously, and that's not taking anything away from you. But obviously, you'd wake up with not really any cares. Still at mum and dad's, other than work. But you was always good for getting up and going to work.
Yeah.
Not that wouldn't. Yeah.
He was really good. I was bad.
Yeah. But it's funny that everyone's different, but that takes nothing away from either of you and the addiction.
No.
That you could get up and go to work, but you didn't have that responsibility. You had a lot more on your shoulders. So it's almost like that does push you down more.
Yeah, I don't really talk about it. It didn't. It's my older kids. They're all right. It's been a while, but that didn't do them many favours. You know, Amy coming downstairs, finding her dad in a pool of blood on the floor because I've fallen off the stool and smashed my head. You know, Laura waking up at 4 a.m. to literally pull my tongue out of my mouth because I'm throwing up and swallowing my tongue. You know, like. But the scary thing and the self-centered part of alcoholism is that I just got up and went, like nothing happened. You know, and I sort of left this big pile of anxiety and misery behind me. You know, like anyone that was really close to me would get caught up in it.
Because you do similar to me, or did similar to me, as far as everything that happened to you, you're already ready to tell it as a story. It's just another anecdote.
Yeah.
So again, it's a way of sort of deflecting your true feelings. Because as soon as something horrendous happened in my life, rather than sit there with it like I should and be like, this ain't good, instead I would think, oh, it's funny.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell someone this. And obviously you're putting your little extra on it and that just to make it a funny story, because the facts of it are quite sad. So you've got to tell it in a way that it becomes this funny anecdote. You won't believe what I did last night. And it is like you said before, I did this and did that, went out, but you're spinning it into something funny. And not sitting with what the truth of the situation was. And it's only now, again, in sobriety, that you can look back and go, they're not funny.
No.
Don't get me wrong, we've still got some funny stories.
Yeah,
Like I said earlier, I don't regret everything. I had some wicked times in my drinking days. I had some really fun nights. I met some amazing people. I had some great times. But obviously, it was sort of the pros and cons. And by the end, the cons massively outweighed it. You know what I mean? All of the negative repercussions of drink were massively taken over the bit of fun I was having.
Yeah.
And by the end.
Well, even as little as I'd come downstairs after you on a Sunday and Mum would say, oh, Harry's just said you've done blah, blah, and it all sounds fun. And I'd say to Mum,
yeah, it was actually quite dark.
I'm like, no, it's shit. You've done this and this happened. Harry's done that and this person got annoyed. He didn't, just sort of went after him, didn't realise it.
Yeah, that was hard for me, was finding out the truth. Waking up like, mate, what night? And
I
think the room, go, that was funny. Go, do you remember last night? And I'm
like,
like,
because I was always, not a dick, I guess, but it wasn't a dickish way. I go, no, you're getting away with that. If you're not going to listen to me, if I'm saying to you that that's enough now and you're being a dick, it hit a point where I'm like, well, I can't say nothing now, that's what he's doing. So it was almost like, I can't talk to my own brother about you're being a dick, and I'd have to wait till the morning. And then when he comes in, oh yeah, do you remember this and that? And I'm like, you can see I'm annoyed. And I'm like, no, you was a dick last night. I'm like, this happened and that happened. You'd see him sort of go, oh, whatever. Almost annoyed it, oh, fuck off. If that's what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I'd send people WhatsApp videos at 5 a.m, and it'd be songs like "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend," and like it was like a call for help. But and then they'd message me the next morning. You alright? And I'd be like, "You alright, mate? Yeah, I'm alright. Went out last night." And I'll look above that message and see that video, and I'd turn my phone off. Sometimes I wouldn't turn it on for 3 days.
Yeah.
Just turn the phone off, ignore the world. You know, that was the truth of it, mate.
I used to message people a lot, and 9 times out of 10 they're asleep. It's 5, 6 in the morning. I mean, they're not up yet, and I'm sending them drunken texts, and then you got to deal with the repercussions in the morning with that. But I had a mate of mine who I think we're actually going to have on the podcast soon, and he was a bit of a night owl, so I would message him, and he would still be awake. So the problem with that was we would then message back and forth, and I'd send all this sloppy shit. "I love you, mate. I'm really struggling," sending all this bit. And the problem is, it would be this whole back and forth, and the same thing. I'd wake up in the morning not remembering it, and rather than having to deal with the text off the other 2 people, they'll go, "You're right last night," and I can just be like, "Oh yeah, just ignore that." Me and him have had this whole chain of conversation where I've let everything out to him. So I've got to the point where I'd say to him, "Don't reply. Like if I miss, just ignore me, and otherwise I end up spilling it." Maybe it was good that I was getting stuff off my chest, but obviously I can't deal with embarrassment. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to deal with
You don't want
the
to feel
things I
like
said.
you're soft either, because you're still trying to be that bloke. Because I know I drink and I go out and I talk to girls. You don't do soft. You don't do, "I love you, mate."
Yeah, ego, and it's like it's a mask. You know, once you admit you're an alcoholic, then you haven't really got anywhere to go from there. Like that was my big thing. I couldn't admit. I went to meetings before I got sober, and I was going to the meetings, and I liked what I was hearing, but I wasn't too sure, and so I didn't stick at it then, because I knew like what it meant, like what stopping drinking meant.
Yeah.
And in my head, my friends that I had around me were like everything I needed, and I don't want to lose people, and how am I going to watch football? Because everything I did was drinking related. What's my life going to look like? So fear that getting to that point, I think, where you're just like done. I remember going, I was at work at Wicks, putting timber away, and I remember getting a thought, do you know what? I know I've got a drink problem, but I've never drunk fruit cider. So maybe if I drink fruit cider, it will be different this time. And I'd work on the Saturday. And I left work on a Friday. I walked into the pub in Littlehampton on a Friday. And Sunday evening, a friend of mine had to come and get me out of the crack den and take me home. And when I got home, it was hard, mate. It was Christmas. And my girlfriend was putting up Christmas decorations with my kids. And I've just come round the corner, and just sort of went to bed. Just it's scary, Like I went out for a few fruit ciders.
How quickly it can be on you.
And I wasn't even into that drug. The next minute, I'm like, it's a bit like it's self-harm. Like there's some elements to it that are very dark. Like I remember thinking, well, if I'm gonna drink and take drugs, and if I don't wake up, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I don't care. And then I'd wake up and think, oh, I'm awake. And do it again.
Yeah.
And then I think the hardest part for me was my mental health.
Well, I was going to say that. How much harder is it to deal with mental health when the drink ain't there? Does the drink numb it?
Numbs it. It's like medicine. It does. It helps. But it doesn't help. It's so confusing. Yeah,
that's what I say. Because obviously, I personally don't know enough from not going through it. Obviously, dealing with mental health on a clear mind, no drink or drugs.
Again, it's the short term, long term.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I think just the actual dealing with it, clear mind, no drink or drug, is sort of like that's really hard to deal with because every thought, everything is there, every feeling, every pain.
Do you know how I put it, right? So I started smoking skunk at 13, and I smoked it every day, messed my whole school up. Started drinking at 18, started doing cocaine, oh my word, at 15, that's quite scary. So for 19 years, I had a drug of choice that I thought was helping me with my mental health. And then after that sort of long period and getting sober, I've got all these emotions and feelings that I've never dealt with. It's like going in a time machine. In many ways, I was still like a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
because I hadn't really processed or dealt with anything without having to get blackout drunk. If someone died in my family, I got blackout drunk. If Arsenal scored a goal in the last minute, blackout drunk. Valentine's Day, any day I just, if I feel excited, drink, depressed, drink. So when I got sober, I had all these feelings, and I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's where the meetings for me came in, because I could go and express these feelings that I was having, and there were people in those meetings that were like 3 months sober, and I think, wow, 3 months sober, you know, there's people in over 20 years, but there were people in all different stages of their recovery that would talk to me and say, look, don't worry, that's normal. That's normal, like you're feeling what you're feeling because of that, and that's been the process for me now. Even now, I get a bit of bad news, or something don't quite go as I think it should. I don't go straight to a drink now, but I go into, oh, why me? What's the point? I'm trying. You know, I go straight into that sort of like little 13-year-old boy, like I'm not getting my way, you know?
Yeah.
So that's been, mental health wise, getting sober, that's the hardest point, is that you get your feelings back.
Yeah.
Like the best thing is you get your feelings back. The worst thing is you get your feelings back.
You now have to deal with it in a different way.
You know, because the simple things of early recovery, beautiful things like waking up in your own bed with no wee or anything on you.
Yeah, just a little thing.
Knowing where you've been.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, I can plan a bit today. But then that wears off a little bit. You think, well, you know, and you start looking on social media and people are drinking, and there's like, you know, and good luck to them, because I'm a big believer. If you can have a drink like you, like my dad, like my brother, good luck to you. Enjoy yourself. It's a great thing if you can do it. But what was twisting my head was like, this ain't fair.
Yeah.
Why am I looking at pictures of these people drinking? Like on my family WhatsApp group, I love them to bits. It wasn't aimed at me. But I'd think, how my uncle a picture of a fresh pint of Guinness? Doesn't he know what I'm going through, you know? And then I'd get in my head like, oh, and that was the dangerous part in my early recovery. So without the groups and meetings and my sponsor, without all that, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have just gone.
Because I guess it stems down to it's self-recovery. You are in it on your own, realistically.
Realistically, yeah, of course.
I want to get sober and I've got to do this for myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you still need them people around you.
Yeah.
But then it becomes, because obviously you have to make the decision for yourself to turn up there, or to make a phone call, or to do something that you've been told you should do in recovery. So it is still about yourself. You know what I mean? You have to make the decisions.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Even till now, it's still about you, and I think that's what we're saying is like the hardest thing is if you're going through a breakup, if you've lost someone, you can go to people. Even though you're doing it yourself, it's more of a thing you can share. Whereas when it's like recovery and wherever it is, it's like that is down to you. There is no option of, let me just put a bit of this on someone else and that will help me, because it doesn't. You're still coming back to the same place of, I've got to do this.
Yeah, there's times, and Harry knows this, there's no meetings near you. You might not even be able to pick up the phone. Someone, you know, you might have picked up the phone, someone hasn't answered. You know, and picking up the phone is basically ringing another alcoholic in recovery. Instead of going to the bar or to the shop to pick up a drink, the idea is to pick up the phone. You know, not so they talk you out of it, because you can't talk anyone out of anything. It's just saying, hold on a minute, what is the truth of it? So my head would tell me, if I'm in a bad place and I've let myself slip and I'm not doing meetings and I'm stuck in my own self, that I might be able to go and have 4 cans of Stella. I haven't had a drink for 4.5 years. It might be different this time. It might be different. Actually, hold on a minute. And you can see the thinking now. I'm in the debating society in my own head. Whereas if I think those thoughts and I do the right thing, pick up the phone, call someone, could be Harry, could be anyone, but ideally my sponsor, and I say, look, I'm thinking about maybe I could drink 4 cans of Stella and be all right. Whereas the sponsor that knows me, sometimes a little bit better than I do, when it comes to our drinking, will say, well, hold on a minute, what's that going to look like? You're going to go and get 4 cans of Stella, you're going to drink them. Then you're going to be like, I need more, because you're alcoholic. If you're alcoholic, you're not going to have 4 cans of Stella. It's impossible. And once that alcohol goes in your system, it's game over. Like you've got no choice then.
Yeah.
I had a choice: pick up the phone, go to a meeting, do my recovery, or drink. I had a choice. Once I choose that, it's done. The drink, alcohol. I've got no choice. So the truth is that twisted thinking that I can have 4 cans is going to end up with me drinking 8, 10, 12 cans, 15 cans, blacking out, getting up in the morning, drinking another 4 cans, and continuing and continuing and continuing.
That's definitely got to be one of the hardest things to explain to someone that doesn't go for addiction, is that I think to most people, they think, well, if you can stop, so you've gone 4.5 years, you can go 4.5 years and surely you can have a couple and then you just stop it.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to explain is, you know, I get that I've stopped, so that doesn't mean that the faults ain't there every day in the addiction.
Yeah,
but obviously to an everyday person, you're going to be like, well, you stopped, so you just have a couple and then you stop again.
Well, you sort of touched on it earlier, and we spoke about on a podcast before how annoyed I get about people not understanding alcoholism. And you touched on it as far as people understanding it when it comes to like crack and heroin. It's so much more visible and it has that reputation, whereas they don't see it with drink when it's the same. You know what I mean? That addiction, as you said, it kills just as many, if not more people.
Yeah.
But people don't really, because it's so accessible and it's illegal.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the thing, is because everyone does it. Not everyone's doing crack and heroin.
No.
It's such a stupid thing to say.
It's true.
Not everyone's doing crack and heroin, so they go, I'm never going to do that. That's weird. But then drink, they go, I don't drink it.
Yeah.
They can't, it's no issue.
People don't get how it's addictive.
Yeah.
People really don't
Do you know
understand.
what, right? Honestly, right, I work in a homeless hostel, yeah? The alcoholics are in more danger and cause more chaos than the junkies, than the men and women that use crack and heroin.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because drinkers are out normally as well, isn't they?
Yeah, it's just full on. I mean, alcohol is like bang. You know, with those other drugs, heroin, you know, they're quite relaxed.
Yeah.
And you're reserved during, like you say.
They just want to be left alone, you know.
Yeah.
They just want to fill their bars and be left alone, and it's a terrible drug, dangerous, would kill you with one injection. But you know, they sort of just want to be left alone. Crack addicts, crack addicts get very paranoid. You know, they're not in their room, they're out shoplifting, they're busy. You know, like people say, you know, that they're weak people, but I don't admire them for what they're doing, but they go to any lengths
Well, that's
to
why
get their drugs.
Yeah.
Like they try and get up every morning, clucking for heroin and crack, and then going out all day shoplifting constantly.
I should love it.
I know, but try it, right? Shoplifting all day and then selling it for 20 quid, doing your fix, and then that wears off and you've got to go and do it all over again every day. They are strong people in their own way.
Yeah.
But with what I'm saying is, with the alcoholics, we're talking about urine, we're talking about shit, we're talking about things that you see that you think, oh my word, alcohol, man, it's unbelievable. And then you get the ones that are the old-fashioned, old-school sort of alcoholics that are alcohol dependent.
Yeah.
So if they stop drinking, they'll have a seizure, die.
Yeah.
They have to have it, but they pace it all throughout the day. And they're the ones that are mysteries to me. They're the ones like...
They're level-headed when they seem...
They just know where they're at.
Yeah.
They don't want to stop, and they know they're dying, and they die of liver failure, and they go yellow. And they lose all their family, and they die. Like, I don't want to be deep about it, but I suppose I have to, because it's the truth. You know, if you're alcoholic, you're gonna die a miserable death, and it takes years sometimes. You know, if you're a cocaine addict or a heroin or crack addict, or you're dabbling, you know, that's gonna get you too. Heroin is gonna kill you like that. You know, I've known 2 people that have died this year.
Yeah.
You know, one from suicide. He was doing really well in his recovery. He stopped doing what was working. He stopped doing all the things that we do in the meetings that keep us sober and well. He stopped doing it all, and he started focusing more on education. Education's a great thing, but you've still got to think of your recovery. He relapsed, couldn't handle the guilt and shame, and died on his own in a tent. Took a load of tablets, you know, and then...
It breaks your heart every time as well. It never gets any good when you see people dying to this disease.
Yeah.
No, I mean, unfortunately, we have to see it all the time. We know that we could have been that. If we hadn't stopped when we did, we would have just been another person that
think about it, like, how sad would it if you would have died? Like, how sad, like, you are a character, you know, there's a lot about you that I rate as a person, you know, you're fundamentally, you're a good bloke, right? But you're stuck in the illness of alcoholism. It's got you in its core like it did.
Yeah.
And you die alone from a heart attack somewhere in a pub or in a bedroom. You know, just think of you know, your family, not even your family, you as a person. Like, you wouldn't have got what you've had now. And it's not easy, it's not perfect, and there's still days. But you wouldn't be where you are now in the relationships that you are, and you wouldn't have been able to experience any of that. And then you've got your brother and your mum and your dad. That tragic story of their brother and their, the whole thing is tragedy. Like, and people that are drinking and enjoying it, I honestly mean it. Fantastic, good on you.
And I've said that on it
I
before,
really do. I really do. It's a good thing, man.
Yeah.
But once you lose that power of choice with alcohol and drugs, like, you have to sort of surrender, because eventually it's going to kill you, And I know it's gloomy, sorry, but
no, but I mean,
it's the truth,
This is the point in what we're doing here, and obviously everything we've spoken about, we're going to have to start wrapping up now. Everything comes back round to reaching out.
Yeah,
like everything that we've spoken about goes back full circle to the beginning when I said what I had to do was reach out to you.
Yeah.
What you had to do was reach out to someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just from doing that, the bravery alone that it takes just to be able to make a phone call or send a text to someone and go, look, I'm in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah.
And again, we spoke about in the last podcast, and we'll tag them, we'll start making that a thing of these people that you can reach out to, or again, just people in your life. We said before about the podcast, that's why we're doing this. We've got the Instagram, we've got the YouTube, like where you can message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can find a way to get hold of us and just reach out and or to anyone else in your life and just take action. You know what I mean? And it's the hardest thing. It's harder than any of it. It's harder than even staying sober, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'd get a lot of calls when you used to be out as well to say, like, oh, Harry's done blah, blah, you need to help. And even I was at a point where I'm sort of like, you know what, fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, what can I do?
Yeah.
I've been out the whole night. I've left now. I've gone home. I've got like a bab, as we say. I'm home. And then they're ringing, like, especially Coco when your heart went.
Yeah.
I have people ringing me, like, he's going to have to go to hospital. All right, we'll take him to hospital. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm in bed. I can't, by the time I get down there, he's going to be at the hospital. I can't do nothing now.
Yeah.
And it's horrible for me to think like a thing that I'm thinking that of my brother to be like,
Yeah.
No, that's the best thing to do. I'd say that to anyone, even anyone that's got maybe an alcoholic partner or brother, sister, whatever, or drugs. You can't enable them.
No.
You just got to let them.
Yeah, he did it. I tried helping,
Yeah, you did
didn't
the right
get it
thing.
back, and I'm like, I can't do nothing anymore.
No, you
Yeah,
can't.
I'd be out, and they pull me around the corner, and he's there.
And you make yourself ill.
Yeah, chest pains and blah. What are you going to do? And I'm like,
Nothing.
you look after me. No, my business.
It's not like you don't care.
No.
You can't do anything.
No, I care too much, if anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't keep doing this to myself, man. I'm not getting nothing back. So you just have to leave him to it.
Yeah.
And luckily for him, he's done the right thing. But like you say, there's other people that don't, or do, and can't get through that. They will relapse and can't.
And that's why, once again, even for us in sobriety, it's still about reaching out. As you've spoken about, that's sort of the key of today's podcast in a way.
Yeah.
Is to preach that more than anything else.
Don't matter what your addiction is or where you're with, but where you're at with it. Sorry, whether that's you have been sober from whatever and you've relapsed and you're back sober, or relapsed and still.
And you've got so many people in these groups and these meetings that have been where you are and are not anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the inspiration is.
And you never know what these people can be to you eventually. You might be your future missus.
Yeah.
A new best friend.
Definitely, yeah.
It's always worth going. It's definitely worth
And
going.
and early on too, I'd say it's really important. If you're thinking about recovery or you're in early recovery, you got to make some tough decisions. There's certain people in your lives that have got to go.
Yeah.
And I know that that's harsh too, but if anyone's trying to entice you back into a drink, they're not your friend. There was people that I had in my life that I thought were my friends, and I soon realised after a few months that they weren't. They weren't my friend.
Yeah, it's a hard discovery.
They didn't want what was best for me. They just wanted me to drink because they've got a drinking buddy. It wasn't about me, and I made a whole new group of friends, and I got my old friends back that I was talking about.
Yeah.
All those friends that I lost, I talk to them all the time now.
That's the Charlie room.
But I'll say, if you don't mind, don't lose hope, because I was at a point 4.5 years ago where I was planning whether would it be better to jump in front of a train or take a load of tablets. That was basically where I was 4.5 years ago. How am I going to die? And I remember sitting there with my son on my lap, and I thought, I don't really want to die. I'm just hopeless. But the meetings, mental health, I went to Mind. I put my life and soul. I sort of went to any lengths to try and get well, because this was my final chance. If this didn't work, then I I surrender. Literally, I'm going to kill myself because this don't work.
Yeah.
So all the like ideas and all the sort of prejudices that I had and all the stuff that was like stopped me from going into recovery, I had to say no. No, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to really try, and it turns out that it works. You know, recovery is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
It is. It's not easy. It's exciting. It's new.
Yeah.
You can get high. I can't talk highly enough of it. It saved my life, and you know, I've seen Harry get well, which has been unbelievable. You know, and in recovery too, it's not a. You know, I helped you to get sober. It's not on me. It's what we do in recovery. It's not about me really.
Yeah, he helped himself.
It's how we do it. It's how and Harry will help other people. I'll still help others, and that keeps us sober because we're trying to help others.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to bring people into recovery, take them through the steps, whatever that looks like. That stops us from picking up the drink because we're helping others, and that's how recovery works. That's how the meetings have lasted so many years. It's all about the new person, the newcomer.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to end it. Is always help others. Always be there to help others.
Well, we'll definitely have you on again anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it won't be a one-time thing, obviously. We'll definitely do it again. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been one I've been looking forward to having you on. And yeah, it's been good. I've got sweaty hands. I've got pretty warm now. Hot in this.
Great to see you, lads. Great to see you.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to do it with everyone. It's sort of have a gloomy episode and then a nice episode. That's
yeah, I mean,
I
can bring some happiness.
Yeah, well, it just sort of seemed to be the way it was. Craig's first one was talking about the lowest he's had, and then the next one was laughing. And Dad was sort of everything we've gone through with Mum, and then it was laughing. So now we've had this is Charlie, and this
it
is what we've
shows
been
the two
through.
sides. That's
Yeah, and I think it is good to see that. So
we can't just sit here laughing all the time.
No,
It's
exactly.
a serious subject.
So I think
serious.
when we go back on, it'll be a bit. But we can tell some of them stories. And,
Yeah, we got some.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be nicer.
Alright, well, yeah, thanks again for coming on. And yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Perfect.
Love you all a bit. Take care, people.